Hey there, welcome to the Growth Whisperers, where everything we talk about is building enduring great companies. Everything, not just some things, but everything, building enduring great companies. Welcome to number 2 in a series of 4 short episodes focused on what you need to do going into 2021. And this week, we're talking about strategy. In the first week, we spoke about people and culture, but this week we're digging into strategy to really understand what is it that you need to do in the strategy element going into 21, and how can you move the needle the most when we reset at this time of year. Hey, Kevin, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing awesome. I'm liking these like right to the point episodes as something different we're doing. And this will be shared with people during the holidays. So hopefully people are having a great time. Hopefully we're having a great time as people are listening to this one.
Yeah. So we're drawing on an episode we did, episode 31, which is about building an enduring great company. What are the 8 elements from in that? Last week, again, we spoke about people, but this week we're talking about strategy. So there's a couple of elements here. Number 1 is having a long-term vision. So we've got to ensure to build an enduring great company that we've got a long-term vision. So we're going to talk about that today. And second is having a strategy that delivers a sustained competitive advantage. So both part A, looking to the long term, and then part B, developing a strategy that gives us a competitive advantage that is sustainable.
Yeah, so let's dig into the long-term vision. And it sounds nice. Oh yeah, you need to have a vision. You need to be a visionary leader and all this other stuff. It makes you sound good, feel special, but it's actually really important because you got to basically know where the heck you're going and reminding a team of what you're trying to do and what you're driving to so they don't get lost in the weeds, number 1. And number 2, they can find the meaning in the work they're doing because it can get to be a grind. So you're providing purpose, vision, direction. And it's really important for leaders, and many CEOs get so lost in the stuff they're dealing with day to day, they don't get there. And that's why we have regular meetings with CEOs to help them pop out. And it's easier for us to help with it because we're on the outside of it, obviously. So we got 3 key things around vision. And the first is kind of about renewal. And we know over holidays, we have some time for self-renewal and reflection and all of those things. And ideally, you do some of that around your business and your long-term vision of your company. But even throughout the year, you still got to do it. So the first thing is to really make sure you have time yourself or with a few key thought partners to really think about what 3 to 5 years looks like down the road. And so you're really clear on what you're trying to achieve, and even some time to soak into and work through the how you're going to get there. And it sounds easy, but it's actually very difficult for people to make the time unless they have some sort of a discipline and rhythm to do it. I don't know, Brad, what are your thoughts around that?
Well, it makes me think about Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants, right? And what we're saying is that so often we're stuck in the urgent and important. That's how so many teams and leaders spend most of their time. And what we're really saying here is, first of all, you've got to step from what Covey calls quadrant 1, urgent, important, into quadrant 2, which is important and not urgent. So that is slow down, think about where you're heading. Where is this bus going? And is it in the direction that you really want?
Yeah, it's, again, sounds simple. And the question for you is, how do you best do it? Do you do it by yourself? Do you do it on a bike ride? Do you do it on an airplane, which used to be one of my best places? Do you have thought partners that you like to do with? It doesn't, but somehow a chunk of time to reset your thinking. And then what's the ongoing time you will keep focusing on this? So again, straightforward, reset your vision and think about what you're trying to build and how.
Well, we know that Bill Gates built a habit in each year. He would spend 1 week in the wilderness in a cabin where he would take a pile of books, and then he would go and he would read all of those books, do his deep thinking time. And then that was his renewal. Now, you don't need to necessarily spend a week in the wilderness, but it's a habit that he built that was successful for him.
Yes, and I've seen, a CEO of a company I work with, and one of his key people that were doing a major strategic pivot and into from a bricks and mortar into a tech space. They would read for 1 or 2 hours a day, and then get together and discuss and debate for a dinner every week.
Yeah.
Right? They'd have that time to, but it's it's some individual work, and for others, but it's dedicating time to it. So pretty straightforward, but what are you going to do to get that booked into your calendar? The second thing we want to talk about in order to make room for this are what are you going to stop doing? What are you going to purge? And we talked about pulling the weeds in a previous episode about people that maybe don't fit, but you got to pull the weeds in your calendar, and you got to remove stuff that is low value or just not worth it. I mean, it could be, it could be a business part of your business that generates, in some cases, it could be 100,000 or a couple $1,000,000 a year of profit, but it might be a distraction. That's where you see companies selling off divisions that need to be stopped because they're diluting them. Or it could be processes or projects or customers that you need to remove from the system to free up resources to dedicate to more important things.
So if your vision is to be the number one, I don't know, recruitment company in the world, and a small part of your business sells glasses or alcohol or carpet, like that doesn't align with your long-term vision, and maybe you should stop that. So that's an extreme or ridiculous example, but what are you doing that doesn't align with your long-term vision? And maybe you could stop that. Now, there are also other things, smaller things you can stop as well, but broadly.
But also,
and
Brad, your
smallly.
examples are good. It could be a recruitment firm, and you thought you would try doing a special type of recruitment in a certain type of technology with a certain type of technician, or you started recruiting in the agriculture space, and it just ain't working now. And sometimes it's just making the decision that it was an experiment, it's not working, and prune it and stop it. So it can even be, it's like it could be a logical thing that should work, but it's not, or
Yeah.
it's not profitable, or it's not fun, or it's killing the culture, or it's whatever. One company, they have a thing every year where they let the team vote on the customer they're going to let go of.
I love
Basically,
that.
it's like the Nightmare of the Year customer award, and then the customer gets a little note saying thank you, but no thank you. So again, it's a matter of what works, but you got to remove junk from the system, friction from the system, low value stuff from the system. You're thinking about letting go of the customer, aren't you?
Look, I'll be honest with you. Yes. I love that but you know what, more than that, there's about what I'm thinking about who I can let go, but more than that, it's the habit of letting go of a customer. It's the
Yes.
pruning. You only get beautiful rose bushes by pruning them regularly. Okay. And what can you stop? As the mindset right now when we change over the calendar year is, okay, so it's a sense of renewal. People want to lose a few kilos or give up smoking or whatever their affliction is. Well, maybe your affliction is a few customers. Maybe you've got to get rid of.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a department or something like that. So let's now move on to number 3. So far, we've got renewal and your stop list. But number 3 is to keep sharing the vision. So what do you need to do in 2021 to help your long-term vision? Well, what we're saying here is keep sharing the vision. So how many people know your vision deeply so that more people can drink the Kool-Aid, as it's put, in the whole team, so that we don't get lost in the weeds? People should subscribe deeply to your, as a leader, your long-term vision. Okay, that's one of the reasons there, because it's exciting to be there, because the vision that you have, the enduring great company that you want to build, is something that they want to be a part of. So how can you get more people to understand more deeply your long-term vision?
Yeah, and the thing is sometimes as a leader we get tired about talking about the vision, or we get bored talking about it because we think about it constantly. But your team normally doesn't. The team normally doesn't hear it enough, and they don't know that they don't know it, or they're not engaged with it. They
Yeah.
just get stuck in the weeds in the work, and we all can use a little bit of inspiration. As I'm thinking about this right now with my team, we worked on division at a retreat in depth in October. We had an offsite retreat for a couple of days. It was awesome. And we're in tactical mode. We're
Yeah.
executing on our goals and doing great work. But I know we got our planning coming up in January, and I've got to actually made a note here. I've got to actually I got to make a new presentation about our vision and what it looks like and how it can work, because one, it keeps myself inspired, but for them, it's just helpful for them to be connected to the bigger goals and the bigger purpose outside of the day-to-day work. And it's easy to say, it's a discipline to do.
So if we set some timings around this, by the end of January, is it possible that you could find some time to renew, to to get back to who you are, to reset, and to think about where do you want to go? Number two, by the end of January, is it possible that you could build a stop list? What are the customers that you could exit? What are the departments that you could shut down, or the revenue streams that are never going to work? Can you prune? What can you prune and where? And then number three is, by the end of January, how can you share the vision more? How can you get more people to understand your vision more deeply? Cut out some time for that out of your calendar. So shall we
Awesome.
move on to the second part, which is a
Absolutely. So
strategy?
now you got a vision of what you want to achieve, and it's fresher and clearer in the minds of your people. Now we need a strategy so that we can win consistently to get there.
Yeah. So we've got
So
some
the
good
first thing,
stuff
and,
here.
and and the whole idea, yeah, go ahead, Brad. Go ahead, Brad. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we've got some good stuff here. Remember, the first one was vision. Here we've got a strategy that delivers a sustained competitive advantage. So, how sustainable, if you have a competitive advantage at all, how sustainable is your competitive advantage? And what do you need to do? So, think about that January timeframe. What is it that you can do to begin to get that? So, we've got some interesting things here, three things. What's the first one, Kevin, that we think you should do now?
First of all, is to go back to your flywheel. It's the core driver of strategy that we're using on most of our clients. Jim Collins's book, Turning the Flywheel, his little monograph book, awesome book. But it's really the engine of your business that builds and builds and builds until it becomes a positive, uncontrollable force, kind of like a snowball rolling down a mountain hill in the cartoons. It gets going and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where it becomes so big it'll destroy the town that's in the valley. They don't want to destroy anyone or hurt anyone, but the idea is just it's a core strategic tool, and it's a set of principles that show you really what makes your business work. And in the companies that we work with that have this, we go back every quarter and do a report card on our flywheel.
Yeah.
How are the different components performing? Why is it doing this? And we use measures in almost every case to measure how it's doing. And then what do we going to do to dial it in, whether it's overall or by location or by branch or by unit, whatever it happens to be. But it's being really clear on these strategic drivers, what's working, what's not. And so we know where to put our energy. And if things aren't going right, it'll usually show up as a weak point on our flywheel. So it's a great evaluation tool. If you don't have one, you need to get it defined.
Well, yeah. If you don't work with a coach, maybe that'd be a good place to start. But if you don't, at the very least, buy the book. It's like an hour or two to read. Okay, it's called "Building the Flywheel" by Jim Collins, and it's really central. There you go. For those of you on YouTube,
Turning the flywheel, a monograph to a company good to great.
so
Why
if
some
you don't,
companies build momentum and others don't.
yeah. So if you don't have that, if you don't have a flywheel, That is so fundamentally important in terms of building a sustained competitive advantage. So work to build, even a basic one at the beginning is good, and it's got some great examples in there. So if we then look at maybe you could read that again, maybe you could go back to it and say, what does that mean in terms of January 2021? How
Yep.
can I get back into the flywheel? Then we move into number 2. So Michael Porter, arguably one of the most successful thinkers on management strategy, certainly last century, wrote an article in Harvard Business Review called What is Strategy? Again, that's Michael Porter, Harvard Business Review, What is Strategy? So our number 2 here is to read that article to help to understand where does your business fit. Now, it's not new and it's not cool. There are old examples, but it's so fundamentally helps you to understand how does your business align with strategy. One of the things that I love in that article is the key statement: operational effectiveness is not strategy. Like, so many people think, well, we've got to ship faster, or we've got to, you invoke the whole lean movement. We've got to get people to walk faster between their workstations or whatever. But operational effectiveness is not strategy.
No, it's a commodity driver. It drives. It's great for efficiency, but
Yeah,
it creates commodity type thinking.
yeah,
I've got a slide here that I did years ago on a presentation I did on what is strategy. There's a quote from Porter: competitive strategy is about being different. It means deliberately choosing a different set of activities to deliver a unique mix of value. And I've got this thing here: strategy versus operational effectiveness. And I was, banging my clients over the head. And it's like operational effectiveness, performing similar activities better or more efficiently. And that's not a sustainable advantage. And I get so excited where strategy is doing different things better that are meaningful to the customer. Oh, I just love that stuff.
So what we're suggesting, or what we're prescribing, let's call it what it is here, is January 2021, read this article, What is Strategy? Understand the activity fit map within there. And there's examples around IKEA and a few other examples I don't remember immediately. I definitely remember the IKEA one. Southwest Airlines, pardon me, was the other one.
Yep.
And it shows how activities that we undertake help us to build a strategy, which is a sustained competitive advantage in the marketplace. And operational effectiveness is not strategy.
Yep.
So read that.
The other one was Vanguard, Brad. It was Vanguard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad, sorry.
Yeah. So read that, understand that, and then think about how does that apply to strategy moving into 2021. So then we move on to number 3. Evaluate your company on the strategy map versus competitors for the same companies. And so what are we talking about here, Kevin?
Yeah, and this is, what's interesting was as you were talking, I pulled up my PowerPoint on what a strategy I taught years ago to my clients, and I transitioned it into Blue Ocean Strategy, another book that has strategy maps, where you look at value drivers from the perspective of your core customer and how you contrast with their other options. And we had a professional services business that we did this with. The business was killing it, doing incredibly well. In our annual planning, we did the strategy map. We compared themselves on the same drivers that were important to their customers to a couple of competitors, and the option of DIY, do it yourself, which also was a competitor because many people insourced this activity versus outsourcing it to our client. It was a shocker. We finished the mapping activity and the room went quiet. And there was a sort of like, because we lost our differentiation.
Yeah.
And we were killing it in the market because we had an amazing sales team.
Yeah.
No strategic difference. So purely execution was our advantage. And that was not a sustainable competitor. So we had to go back, do some strategy work, and go and look at how we were going to enhance and differentiate again. And I've seen it so many times where people have a great advantage. They commoditize themselves along the way, become like everybody else. And then sooner or later, the airplane
Yeah.
runs out of gas and starts to dip. So super important activity. And it's remembering and taking pride in different being good, different that matters to your customer. Because a logical person would say, IKEA shouldn't make people walk through all the aisles like that. Or
Yeah.
IKEA should do home delivery and home setup. I talked to a person who ran IKEA in a certain country. A few years ago, online sales were like nothing for IKEA.
Yeah.
So the point of it is that there's lots of great things around strategy, but the point of it is these tools. So go back to the flywheel. That's the drivers of your engine that makes your business stronger and stronger and stronger. Critical tool. Porter's What is Strategy is a great reset on it. If you want to do the advanced version, you might look at his 5 forces. And then go back to the strategy map from Blue Ocean and map your value prop to your customer and contrast it with the alternatives that your core customer has. It'll really be a great reset. And no, you don't need to hire a large consulting firm and pay $1 million to do this. You can get an executive team or leaders in the room for half a day and bang it out. You can do it a simple way. You can do some research. There's lots of different ways you can do it. The point is to put the time onto this. So you invest in things that make a difference to your customers, make your business and your economic engine stronger.
Awesome. So let's have a quick review. First of all, we said there are 2 things that you've got to do going into 2021 around strategy. You've got to focus on your long-term vision, and you've got to focus on a strategy that delivers a sustained competitive advantage. They're the things that you need to do in order to build an enduring great company. But within that, in terms of long-term vision, first of all, renewing yourself and taking time to stop, contemplate, and understand where you are. Then number 2 is your stop list. So what do you need to stop doing in terms of yourself, your business, your customers, everything that doesn't align with your long-term vision? And then number 3 is to keep sharing the vision with your team. So how can you, within the context of January, how can you begin to share the vision more with your team?
And then on the strategy side is to take that vision and bring it to life to be more competitive and making sure you don't lose your competitive advantage. Go back to your flywheel, the basics of the drivers of your economic engine and your just the engine and force behind your business. Porter's What is Strategy? And then evaluate your company on the strategy map and actually place out how you believe you're delivering to the customer's needs compared to alternatives, including doing it themselves or who knows what. So that's been our episode here on vision and strategy, a deeper dive. So thank you for listening. This has been the Growth Whisperers with Brad Giles, and I'm Kevin Lawrence. If you want the YouTube, go to youtube.com and search for The Growth Whisperers. And to reach Brad, evolutionpartners.com.au. And for myself, lawrenceandco.com. Have an amazing week.